You're watching the VetTunes Podcast, the show that shines a spotlight on military and veteran artists. Stand by for transmission. All right, transmission indeed. We are here transmitting to you from the bunker at Harmony Hill Studios. This is episode 3. We are honored to have Brian Grilli here. It's an honor to have you here. We ran into each other and played a little bit together up in the Virginia Beach area. I was stationed up there. I went and checked out some of your new stuff. The amount of music that this guy is putting out this year. He's got an album that came out. He's got 2 or 3 singles and then another one on the way in July. But the timing was right, and you were here in Nashville. Yeah. And, to be able to come down here to Shelbyville, where we are, man, it's an honor to have you. I'm looking forward to helping get the word out about, you and your music, because it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, I appreciate that.
With that, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so down here in Nashville, doing some stuff for an amp company that I am working with called Valhalla Amplification, and nice. We had a little thing at RCA Studio. Thank you, Dave Cobb, for having us. But yeah, so it was fun, and when you asked me to be on this, I was like, oh, hell, can I say hell yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We can say whatever we want. We can do whatever we want.
Of course, yeah, because like you said, when you were up in the Virginia area, when you were stationed up there, I was already retired by that point, but we did a couple of the Wounded Wear events and Combat Wounded Coalition events.
Shout out Jay Redman.
Yep,
got your coin right over there.
Yeah. I don't have a coin, Jay, but I have your phone number, so that's fine. Wow. And just plugging along with the music. So it's been busy. Yeah. I'm tired.
So, tell us a little bit more, tell us about your, what got you here today. There's the. Your
2018
journey.
Jeep Renegade.
There's a
and a ticket.
Oh, man.
Anyway, I digress. So I was born in Chicago Heights, Illinois, and I was raised in Lansing, Illinois, which is a small town right on the border of Northwest Indiana. It's a suburb of Chicago, but it's far enough from the city. But I was, I'm the youngest of 8, and 2 brothers are musicians. My brother Lanny is a jazz drummer, and he still plays out in the Chicagoland area. And my brother Dave is a jazz saxophonist and clarinetist and stuff like that. So he still plays too. And
where's he out of?
Chicago. Okay. Yeah, they're both out. They're still in Chicago. And then my mom was a singer, entertainer. So was my dad. My dad was a classically trained piano player and opera singer. And my 2 brothers and my dad, they all graduated from Roosevelt College in Chicago. In music.
So a lot of music in the house.
Oh yeah. And then, everybody listened to music. So I grew up from everything from my dad was born in 1920. So, and he passed away at the age of 93. But so if you think about it, I had everything from Enrico Caruso and Mario Lanza and Frank Sinatra and all the big band stuff, Glenn Miller and drummers like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and all this stuff, Tony Bennett and all the Italian singers as well. So, but then my mom was a little younger than my dad, and that came she liked the big band stuff as well, but she loved 50s music, so all the rockabilly stuff, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, all this, all that stuff, Dwayne Eddy, Chuck Berry. My mom was all into that. And then gradually, the Beatles and the Stones and Zeppelin, Sabbath and all that stuff, came into play. And then I personally found my favorite band, Cheap Trick. They're from Rockford, Illinois. So I was really influenced by Chicago style pop music. Off Broadway, and then, but I also loved like glam rock, like New York Dolls and Iggy Pop and T-Rex, and I love Badfinger, and then so my musical tastes like were very broad, but I love like Eagles and Graham Parsons and Flying Burrito Brothers and Little Feat, but then I would also go and listen to like when I was growing up, like Cinderella and Warrant and Bon Jovi and Metallica, Slayer, Dio, all like Ozzy, everything else. So I had such a huge, but Bryan Adams, John Cougar Mellencamp, Bruce Springsteen, all the stuff growing up. So music was huge in my life, and then I graduated high school. I went to school to Columbia, and I wanted to be a recording engineer, recording and sound and radio and all this stuff. And so that was my major. So I did 1 year, and there was something that just wasn't right.
Yeah.
So my dad had served. He was in World War II, and he served in the Coast Guard. But in that time, it fell under the Navy.
Right.
So he was on a transport ship, and then he became a combat swimmer. My other brother, he went into the Air Force, and he was a combat controller. So I was like, well, I want to go into I should probably go in the Navy, because I wanted to train dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a program.
Yeah. So I thought, man, that's really what I want to do. Had nothing to do with music, like the Navy band, because I'm not. When it comes to how I learned how to play guitar, it was more or less. I did have a few like lessons here and there, but I learned better like going to the record player and listening to Crazy Train or Eruption and Van Halen records, and just being like, oh man, I need to learn this, and I'm just gonna sit here in my room and play. So I didn't have any formal training. I was never in like school band or anything like that. So I like. And I don't pride myself on this because I should know more theory, and I always try to pick up as much as I can along the way, and I have, and I wish I probably studied more, and there's never too late. It's never too late, but that's usually not the first thing on our minds. I'm gonna go, study the circle of fifths, instead of going and playing with my kid. But I should have done that a long time ago, but I didn't. So I joined the Navy instead of learning the circle of fifths, and I became a diver, a deep sea diver first. Then after 9/11, I went Explosive Ordinance Disposal, and then after that, did some deployments, and I did some support with the teams and stuff like that. So, and then retired. that was my journey. But even when I was I was always playing in bands, here and there, like getting up and jamming with people, and I was like the come on, boy, dance for us. Let's throw us in. Let's go to the karaoke bar and see if Grilli can get us some chicks. But that never happened.
Every once in a while, a free beer. Or,
yeah,
a couple
usually
shots
like, oh wow, you were really good, but no, never. The girls never came. They were. It was usually the karaoke bar was filled with like drunk guys looking for girls. So it was unsuccessful mission. Sorry, fellas. But yeah, so that it was always ongoing, and I would always have a guitar, or sometimes I would bring a guitar and an amp with me on deployment, because you can only hit the gym so much and watch so much. At the time, it was Arrested Development. You can only get through a season, So always good to have the guitar there with me. But yeah, so that's. And then once I was, getting ready to retire and everything and healing up because I got hurt, but I was writing my first album, which was Damn Good Day, and that album, it was wild because I had been in bands that we recorded, and I, even up to Damn Good Day, I was always writing from a outside perspective. Like, oh, what would this guy or girl do in this? Trying to tell a story, but from an outside, it wasn't really like coming from deep within. It's kind of like surface. Poppy, so Damn Good Day, which in my head, I wanted to actually sound like the Black Crowes, or like some sort of like amalgamation of like Cheap Trick meets the Black Crowes meets like a guy whose dad was a manager in Nashville really thought I had a voice for country. And I wasn't, the country music that I had listened to growing up was like, I didn't even consider Johnny Cash country at the time, because I was like, I had a record with Johnny Cash of Dick Clark's, and I Walk the Line was on it.
Yeah.
And then, I heard Ring of Fire and some of that. So I really I equated Johnny Cash to more like Elvis or rockabilly than I did rock. Because the Sun record label that was my Johnny Cash growing up. Mm-hmm. So and then Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and Roy Clark and Jerry Reed, because I watched Hee Haw growing up,
right, yeah,
and then also like Kenny Rogers because of The Gambler, and then like the movies that he did, and so and Dolly Parton. So like that was about the extent of like country that I really was familiar with. Not even like, oh, I listen to country.
Sure.
Because that wasn't my go-to. My go-to was like, oh, let's listen to some, metal or whatever, and some rock. So that was thing, and I thought they were kind of crazy. But we did Damn Good Day, and it kind of morphed into more of like Cheap Trick or Bryan Adams wrote a country album. That's what it would have like sounded like, because it has like this like weird 80s feel to it. Mm-hmm. Like it has country, because I think it makes country because it's got some lap steel on it.
Yeah.
And but like it wasn't what my actual vision for my stuff being, But it was pretty successful, and we had the song that was, written for the Sons of Anarchy TV show and some of that. And so I had some really good success off of it, for somebody that just started, and, getting all the biker rallies known to man, playing Sturgis and Daytona and Myrtle Beach because of the Sons of Anarchy connection and stuff like that. So it was a good deal with doing that, but it wasn't quite what I wanted in terms of where I felt I was musically, and so being on tour, being on the road and stuff like that for that on that first album and doing that stuff and going through a divorce and then, meeting my wife. When I met my wife, I think something kind of changed because I think she became kind of like my muse in a lot of ways because my life had shifted, I became a different person too. In a much better way, I think. With that, I started writing more from the heart, and that's where my second album came into play. And that album has more of my vision because it was a little bit more rocky, a little more southern rock orientated, and still had country elements to it.
Is this the 2018 album?
Yeah, the Deep South Symphony album. Yeah. And we had a good showing, that hit like 9 Billboard charts, and never had I ever had anything like that happen. And then started back on the road pretty extensively, doing really well. 2019 was great. Did stuff with Blackberry Smoke, David Allan Coe, 38 Special, stuff like that. So like it was awesome. And then I went to NAMM in 2020. I came back from NAMM with shingles. Then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, let's just kick you right in the nuts and take all the wind out of your sails and all that good stuff. And when you're at my level, taking wind out of your sails is like, it's kind of just a showstopper, because you're trying to build up momentum, and then all of a sudden it's like, and you're like, back down here.
Yeah. And were you running with the full band at this point?
Yeah.
And which makes it even harder.
Yeah, because now you're holed up. However, I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in a lot of ways. And a lot of people can roll their eyes and be like, "What?" Or like say, well, "How you mean by that?" I think what that it was a very weird dynamic. I know for the country it wasn't great at all, and our economy and all that good stuff, and I'm not going to get political about it, but for me personally, it slowed me down. It really like made me stop and take a look at everything I had around me. And for the longest time, I never really took anything that I did achieve or accomplish in music. I never took any of that. I never took any of the people that were helping me, even band members and stuff. I took a lot of stuff for granted, and I didn't really think that I accomplished much at all. Like I wasn't happy with what I had already done, which in a lot of aspects, if you look at the population of America, the little stuff that I've done, how many people get to experience that stuff?
Right.
And my wife would, kind of like, look at what you've done. Like, oh, so far, like, can't you be happy with that? And I'm like, okay. So what that did is like made me stop and kind of like, start looking back. And so my 6-month hiatus, kind of getting back once things started opening back up, I did start playing locally and, doing the acoustic gigs and stuff and all that, everything that people would do. But I didn't do any of like the video, the Zoom, like jams and stuff. I kind of like I got off social media and everything else. And I started going down into like the fitness realm and everything else like that. Not like to be an influencer or anything like that, but to actually like train people and do the right things, study, and everything, and be the best trainer I could be, and focus on wellness and for people and everything. And that was, I wanted to get into the helping aspect. So that kind of like took over. So here's another facet of my life that was happening. Now comes a baby, and my wife and I's daughter Jojo was born, and more reflection comes. I'm getting older, and I have this another little tiny human, that because I have 6 children and a grandbaby now. So I'm an old dude, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because when Jojo was born and I was home and getting to spend the time with her and seeing a lot of the stuff that I didn't get to see, whether I was on, deployment,
right,
or training ops in the military, or on the road, and going different places. And so I didn't get to experience a lot of the stuff. So here I have all these new experiences that I get to enjoy, and still playing music, still training people. Here comes another baby. I'm like, six is enough. But that's when our daughter Junie was born.
Jojo and Junie.
Yeah, Johanna, and Junie's actually her name. That's not short for anything. Her nickname is Pickle. But so Jojo and Junie, and so I have these 2 little humans that I'm watching grow up, and it's the best thing ever in my life that I, because before the cameras and everything are rolling, you and I were talking about how military and being a veteran and everything it's the utmost honor, and it's a matter of pride, and I'm so thankful for the people that I met, the people and the things that I did and got to do and were afforded to do, by virtue of, being in the military, right, and everything. And, to serve this country is, just probably one of the greatest honors I think anybody could ever have that has done it. And I think, but I didn't want that to define me. That's a facet of my life, I played football, I played rugby, there's a lot of other, and that's the thing, when I decided to become, and pursue music, I wanted to be of course, known as a veteran, because I'm proud, but I didn't want that to define me.
Right.
I only have one, I don't want to just lump it into a patriotic song, but a song that reflects back on experiences and everything in the military. For me, I only have one song, and it's not because I don't want to write. We had a John Philip Sousa. I don't want to be that.
Right,
I also have other things to write about. So I didn't want that to define me. And I see these kids, and even my older kids. That is a more of a defining legacy for me than military music or anything. I see those children, and this past Father's Day, we took a picture of me with all my kids on the couch, and I look at it and it looks, like, holy crap, you got a brood. But it's like, and it's like one of my favorite pictures, because I would have loved my wife in it too, but it's all my kids, and that is my legacy. And then now my son, he gave me my first grandson, my first grandson, and I see him on the end, and it's like, that's that's what what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, because when I'm gone, yeah, my music, hopefully will remain, and but my kids and their kids and so on and so forth. That's what it's all about. And I think my wife really made me see that and made me appreciate my accomplishments for what they are. Like I said, not many people get, we don't, not many people, you got a article about you on the wall. Not many people get into the newspaper, like little things like that, Ooh, that's a good segue. Little things. So, coming up to that, so 2024 rolls around. Well, it's actually 2023 because I get a thing. I'd played NAMM before, they're one of their stages, and I got invited back to play.
Nice. For
the 2024 NAMM. So 2024 NAMM rolls around, and I had to tell this story because it's a crucial part of the story. I say yes to playing NAMM. I'm out of the game, kind of. I'm not doing any bigger shows. I don't have any releases, nothing. I say yes to playing NAMM. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to NAMM for? Like, why? Why is this, And, having two little kids, we're looking up tickets, and it's like, $500 round trip at, last time I was at NAMM, it was like, $275 round trip on Southwest.
So we're talking in Anaheim, right?
Yeah, in Anaheim. It's like I could have, I was like, dang, these tickets went up.
What else can you do with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I have little kids.
Sure.
So I'm getting anxious and everything. I'm like, oh my God, this is probably the worst idea I've ever had. Yeah, I shouldn't do this. And my wife kept, kind of pushing. Yeah, no, you need to go. And I was like, what am I going for? I go play a place in Norfolk. Just playing a regular gig, and the owner and his partner, and some of the other restaurants that he owns, they come in and they say, hey, we start talking. I just, tell them, well, what do you got going on? You got anything happening now? And I was like, well, got invited to play NAMM, which is a big music conference, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I just don't know how I'm going to get there because the tickets are ridiculous.
Right.
And, we were just kind of talking about that, and they're like, oh man, that sucks. You should try to go. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, we're going to go eat dinner, and, we're going to watch your first set, and talk to you on your break. I said, yeah, absolutely. Play my set and everything. And they come up and they're like, yeah, we're out of here. And they slap my hand and they put $500 in my hand.
Nice.
Cash.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're like, go get your plane ticket. And I fanned out the money, and I took a picture, and I was like, you aren't gonna believe this. I just, told my wife, and she was like, oh my gosh. And so we booked my ticket, and I'm still unsure at this point because, again, I'm out of the game. I've been training people and playing solo acoustic gigs locally. I'm just like, why am I going? What is, why? And we were at the Virginia Marine Science. I remember this so vividly. We got the babies at the aquarium, and we're walking the trail, and I said, I don't think I'm gonna go. I said, I feel so bad. We could have used that $500 for something more, groceries, whatever. And she's like, no. She's like, you're going. There's something that she said. Now there's absolutely there's a reason why you need to go. You know, like there's all these things have happened to something's going to happen. There's going to be some sort of opportunity, or you're going to meet somebody there. Something's going to happen. So I started making calls saying, hey, can I crash at your hotel type of thing? Because I don't want to, I've already, I got lucky on a plane ticket, right? So a friend of mine who used to be one of the chief operations guy for the for an NAMM company that I was with for a while, I called him up and I said, "Are you going to NAMM, man?" And he's like, "Yeah, his name's Darren Atkinson." He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing my my microphone prototype thing, and I'm also going to be helping Key with his new line." Key Mayer, who is he was a chief engineer for high watt amps for 20 some years, and he did work for JMI. He's done work for Orange and Victory and a bunch of English amp companies. Amazing amp builder, one of the best. Just phenomenal amp builder. He has a line called Valhalla amplifiers. Him and his partner Rick. I was like, wow, cool. Can I stay in your hotel room? Right? This is all great. Can I stay in your hotel room because I need to play? And he's like, yeah, man. Yeah, just crash. Yeah, it's cool. I have a plane ticket. I have a place to stay. I'm gonna go to NAMM, play. I go there. I play these amps, and I'm like, holy mackerel, these amps are phenomenal. My buddy Key, who I've known for years, he's got a great thing going, and I didn't think anything of it. Played my gig, hung out. It was amazing because a lot of the artist relations people of the companies that I'm really fortunate to have relations and endorsements or whatever you want to call them with. I was really nervous that nobody would remember who I was, or
sure,
nobody,
yeah.
Oh yeah, who are you again type of thing. But no, it was complete opposite. Oh my God, what do you got going on? I'm like, nothing. I'm playing. That sort of
Writing.
thing. Yeah. Just the kind of the standard answers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really good NAMM. I talked with so many people and got to reconnect and kind of have that FaceTime. But the turning point was I meet Key's business partner, Rick. His name is Rick Forrest. And this is where the stars and everything start to align and this is the reason why all these things came into place. I meet Rick. We hit it off. Fast forward to February. He offers me not a position per se, but an opportunity to help Valhalla Amplification, with R&D, frequency responses, speaker selections, all this stuff. And I'm like, I've never done this before, so I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to do this. Yeah, this is great. So I fly out to Minneapolis where he was living, and by the way, Minneapolis is one of the best music towns you ever want to go to.
I've heard good things.
It's different than Nashville, but there's music everywhere. Everywhere. It's crazy. It's such a cool scene. There's a little town called Lindstrom. It's a very Nordic town. And me being Scandinavian as well as Italian, I'm like, I want to go there, So we take a little car ride. On that car ride, he's like, hey, do you have anything written or anything? And I was like, yeah, I have some stuff, it's on my iPhone, because that was my preferred method of recording, like acoustic guitar and just singing into my voice memos, right? So
Right.
I had all these like songs, and I'm playing them for him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "What are you talking about? Like, what am I doing?" It's like, he's like, "What? I need you. You need to get these things recorded, these songs recorded. He really, really motivated me to do it, and then he also invested in me. This is February. June of 2024. This is February 24. I meet him January. February, we have this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
June, I'm in the studio in Athens with Levi Lowry recording my newest album.
That's the one that just came out in January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great Big Sky. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's like, what just happened? And then September, filming a video for the first video, Can You Feel It? And then I go on tour with the Steepwater Band in December. I have all new merch. I don't have any more fitness clients because I can't juggle both anymore.
That's tough to sustain.
Yeah, and I'm back to doing music. January 2025, Great Big Sky comes out. I get it gets great reviews, and then I was like, well, I have this acoustic version of Right Has Gone Wrong, which is the song of I'm gonna just do that as a single, and then we go out to Joshua Tree as an amp company, and I go to NAMM to do the music, and I play NAMM again at 2025, and then I film the video out in Joshua Tree for Little Things. That's the longest segue ever. If you remember, I said Little Things in the back. But anyway, so then Little Things comes out, and I had these songs left over from the Great Big Sky sessions that didn't quite have the same vibe as the Great Big Sky songs. So I make a decision. I'm going to release these singles. I'm going to release 3 singles, and I'm going to release an EP. So I release Way I Do, I think, May? And then in July, a wedding song that has Dan Baird from the Georgia Satellites and Homemade Sin and the Chefs. He's on this one. He was on my second album as well. He did a solo and sang backups on my second, on Deep South Symphony. And then that comes out in July, and now, and then we're looking at, getting on the road and all that stuff now. So it's like I went from doing all this stuff to slowing down and doing hardly anything, to now back to doing this stuff. And, what's funny is that now it's I'm kind of approaching it as what not to do, because you learn all the stuff and all the things not to do, and not to. It's so easy to like jump on all the things that you get offered, right? Don't do it. Don't do any of the playlist pictures, and all this stuff, and these people that want to just prey on independent artists because they know that
paying money for bot spins.
Yeah, or paying money for stuff that you don't need.
Right.
Because believe it or not, even as an independent artist, even if you're at a certain level of independent artist, you have to really look and see what the return on investment is really going to be. And that's, I urge every independent artist to either be their own label or and just take advantage of and find the best distributor for your music that you can. And when I say that, actually read the terms of the service and what you're going to get out of it, what they can take from you, and what they can do with your music, because it's your music. So, don't give it away.
Right.
Because record labels need you more than you need them. Because if it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be a record label. And a lot of people lose sight from that.
Mm-hmm.
And what would these record labels do if all their artists just left? What would Spotify do if all the artists were just like, forget this, I don't need my 0.0003 cents.
Right.
Or 1 cent or whatever your rate gets, right? What if they all left and did their own stuff? Artists don't have the confidence in themselves, or, and I hate to say it, and people may really frown upon this, have the motivation and the gumption and the to do it. I know it sucks. I know having to, and nowadays you have to be a social media person, you have to be a videographer, you have to know editing, you have to make content, you have to do all this stuff, you have to be your own PR guy or whatever. But suck it up, do it, because your biggest fan is you, And if you don't do that, like if you can't do it for yourself, and you're expecting other people to do it, you're throwing away a lot of your own money, and and the satisfaction of it isn't as great. It's just like a kid. If you keep giving and giving them, if you give them candy all the time, candy doesn't become a treat.
Right.
It becomes
the norm.
Yeah. And so, and I know it's easy, man.
It's easier in a way, but it's also harder in a way because now you are the videographer. Now you are the, you're the lighting director, and you're doing all of this stuff, and it can pull you away from the art.
Yeah, and other than the photography of the album, Jay Wessler, that's his photo. He was gracious enough. He's an amazing, kind of Ansel Adams type of, mountain range stuff. It's so cool. JayWessler.com is amazing photographer. He did the photography for Great Big Sky. He gave me the photograph that's on there. And my buddy Steve McGuire did the who also shot the video for Little Things. He did the back cover. But I did all the artwork and everything. I had to put everything together, and It's like, so now I have on my iPad, it's like I have Final Cut, I have the AI suite, the Illustrator, Adobe and all this stuff, and it's like you got to have all this stuff.
Yeah.
And maintain your website. Thank God, there's things like Bandzoogle that have templates for guys like me that just go in there and just plug and play. Yeah. But
I use them too.
Yeah, I mean, so learn to write your own press releases. You don't need a $400 a week PR person or whatever. You don't need that, especially if you're at a certain level. But it's also learn the business, because if you don't learn the business, you're going to be so behind the curve, and you're going to get taken for a ride.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people bank on. So it's funny, because in this day and age, if you have 10 million viewers on TikTok, whatever, you'll get a record deal.
Right. Or single deal or
whatever. Yeah.
Because they want what's going viral.
Yeah. They want, so all your hard work or whatever you've done, let's say you're not an overnight sensation that something went viral, but you've gone, and then finally something, all your hard work that you've put into it, right? they're going to snatch that stuff up right away. And they're going to take it from you in some form or fashion.
Right.
So, like I said, they need you more than... And now there's no artist development. I'm probably going to get blacklisted for all this, but whatever. There's no artist development anymore. And that's why, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, that's why music today isn't from the heart. A lot of music today is not from the heart.
A lot of it's just canned formula.
It's
or you see success in the canned formula, and then artists will try to imitate that, and then all of a sudden they're not who they are.
Right. I call it we're in the Johnny Bravo phase. And I'm not talking about the cartoon. I'm talking about the Greg Brady thing. You fit the suit. So you're the next Johnny Bravo. So you fit the suit. You're gonna get that. You're gonna be the next big thing because you sound like you can fit the suit and you can sound like this. I forgot who sang the line, but we need people like Tom Petty again. We need people like Bob Dylan. We need people like, I don't care about political beliefs or anything like that, but like people like Bruce Springsteen and stuff like that, like Cat Stevens, these songwriters, and even not just those people, but or like John Prine, but like if you look at the words to Bed of Roses by Bon Jovi, that is some well-crafted lyrics, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing crafted lyrics. And we don't have that. You have like 50 people on a song. Like, how many people does it take to write a good song?
Yeah.
It didn't take, Willie Nelson
10 other writers.
Yeah. It didn't.
Or Dolly.
Right. A co-writer here or there or whatever is the norm. But like, when you have like 30 people on one song, man, it's like, come on, what are you doing? And I mean, if you're just spreading the wealth, then that's cool, I guess. But it's become, we're in a state of homogenization right now. And I really, truly think that a lot of the really true artists are getting looked over because it's not what's being fed, Yeah. And Americana is like, I love Americana music because by definition it's an amalgamation of, rock, blues, country, folk, However, it's like a band can't just be a rock band anymore. Or like a rock band, like if the Eagles came out today, they wouldn't be a rock band. They would be an Americana band.
Yeah.
And
I think the same for like Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
Counting Crows.
Like it's no longer like now we're just lumping it into a big category, and treating it like the redheaded stepchild of stuff. Like, that's not country. It's Americana. Yeah. When it's more traditional, true, old school country than what's being put out now. And in a lot of ways. I'm not saying...
There's a few out there doing it well.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's not... But it is still the majority. It's not the few that's it's really... And what happens in a homogenization period... Look at what happened in 91 or 92? What happened? Like even though it wasn't the biggest chart topping on Billboard or whatever, but like the hard rock heavy metal realm in the 80s was a gigantic genre. Gigantic. What happens? Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
And then it transcends into like the alternative type of stuff, and then you have like the new wave, and then everything started splintering. Now we have pop. Now and then now it's just getting lumped into like all these like generalized pop, Americana, which is whatever. But when you have a band that's, more alt country, roots rock, and then you have like a really like bare bones folk, fiddle, mandolin, and you're lumping them in the same category, but they're like completely different. Mm-hmm. It's a little like it confuses confuses the fans, it confuses the consumer. Like, what are we listening to? Oh, it's Americana. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's kind of a bogus catch-all.
Yeah, when I think Americana, I just think of just a little bit more rootsy, authentic. One of the terms that we have here at the studio is, I want to hear more of the wood. Yeah. The wood of the guitar, the wood of the mandolin, the wood of I want and that, same thing with drums, all the stuff. Yeah.
It's got to be honest. I don't care what genre.
That's essentially what it comes down to. Yeah.
So when you're writing a song, are you being honest? And I'll admit it. Was Damn Good Day honest in my opinion? No, I wasn't. They weren't coming from the heart. Right. They were coming from like, I want to tell a story. It's a good song. I'm going to tell a story about a guy that's, with a girl and everything like that. And, and I'm going to tell this and everything. And then it wasn't honest. It was just me jacking my jaw, But on this, it's a different vibe, know. And on this album, so in any genre, I just feel like you need to be honest.
Let's go back to 2024, right? So you're playing a couple gigs here and there. You're getting ready to go to NAMM. There's the anxiety that comes with that. And then there's the doors that open, right? So the 500, the plane ticket, that door opened. Meeting, being able to crash out in there, on the, the floor out there, that happened. It's like sometimes the hardest thing to do is to allow the doors to open. Yeah, sometimes you don't know that they are opening, but you have to be able to. Have that little, as we call situational awareness to realize that, hey, if this is your passion and these doors are opening, you got to recognize it, and it's fortunate that you had your wife and her support to be able to go, no, you got to go. You got to go. And maybe you don't know why, but just things happen, and you got to be able to rise to it.
Yeah. And it's a really cool feeling. It really is. And again, that's also the appreciation. I am so thankful for everything that has happened to me. Have I been the best friend? Have I been the best, husband or father? Not always, because I'm human. Mm-hmm. But where I'm at now, it's like I can look back and be thankful for everything that's happened, good and bad, because it got me to where I am right now. Right. And I'm not saying, you're not going to see me, accepting Tonys and Grammys and Emmys and all that stuff this year, or maybe never. But where I am right now in terms of this, my headspace, I really am appreciative and thankful, because it is a journey, and veterans are always on it. They start their journey in the military, whether they retire or they get out after their initial thing. That journey, you have to make the best of it, and do your best.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to catch the signs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The new single, The Way I Do, to me, what came to mind is a roller coaster of genre blending goodness, right? Because it's got a retro feel, but then it builds, and there's so many, layers to it. I mean, how did that come about? What was like the writing process for that?
So that's actually a song that I wrote a long time ago. It never came to fruition in a recording for some reason. It wasn't the time.
Now it's different from a lot of your stuff, but
yeah. So the stuff on this EP, like I said, it didn't quite have the same vibe as Great Big Sky. The stuff on there, even though there's some, retro kind of like throwback type of stuff on it. These songs are just a little bit different. So I wanted to, kind of have another little like it shows just a different side of me. Like I'm not. If you listen to my albums or you listen to my stuff, you will find that I don't stick to a lot of the same things. Like I am a product of my musical tastes and upbringing, and if I'm feeling Cheap Tricky one day, it's gonna come through in that song. If I'm feeling Tom Petty, then it's gonna, if I'm feeling barroom swagger,
hi, Bella.
I'm gonna do that. So it's really me. I was always kind of, trying to chase a carrot, trying to chase that carrot, catch it. Cause, should I be sounding like this? Should I be sounding like that? So the way I do is like, kind of like one of those songs where I'm going to do what I want to do, and I love that song. I think it's got this like, it should be in a Quentin Tarantino like that with that baritone thing. Like it should be.
I can hear that. Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Like I've been told that, and like Quentin, let's do it. Let's make it in your movies. But yeah, that's, and I think I did that on most of this album. Levi was one of the most perfect producers that I worked with ever, because he let me do what I want to do, and he interjected when he absolutely had to. Mm-hmm. How about this? But that's the thing, like it was almost like it was a collaboration with him. It wasn't quite the I'm gonna lay on the couch and then when I don't hear someone, do that, Yeah. He was really hands-on in terms of, making everything sound how it should. And he really got invested. And I think he does that with all of his artists that he's produced and stuff. And even on his own stuff, he really gets involved and immersed, and he becomes part of the project itself. It's right. Crazy. Like I love it.
The band member. Yeah.
He becomes like a band member. Right. Like, and because he takes stock in it.
Right.
Because he doesn't take producing like just as a credit. he takes the producing as that is part of the art form.
The art form. Yeah.
That's part of the package. And I really, he's, you know, and we're doing stuff, you know, we just did more stuff for the EP, and, you know, he's so easy to work with too. So he's probably one of the best souls you ever want to meet. And, you know, and that was, you know, family man, good guy. And, you know, when you say Levi Lowry, you know, I would say 99% of the people out there just be like, oh man, I love that guy. You know? So, cause I also feel if you surround yourself with good people, goodness comes out of that, you know, and, it really has. I've known the Blackberry Smoke guys and stuff, and getting Paul and Charlie on the record, and I'm so honored to have them on there. Man, and again, they're such good people.
Yeah, and that blew me away because I was, you know, I'm listening to the tracks, and then I hear this familiar voice, that and Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke, who I love that band. I love that sound, that feel, the storytelling, the imagery, all of that, and I think it comes through on that album.
Yeah, yeah, and then Jeff Massey from the Steepwater Band, you know, he did the amazing slide solo on "Leave Me Alone," and, you know, Levi playing the fiddle. It's just, you know, I had wonderful musicians on it. It's the first record that I actually played all the bass on. You know, I never played bass on an album. I don't consider myself a bass player, but I really had fun doing it. I actually have a bass amp now and a bass, and I love playing bass now. So if anybody needs bass, I will put the most amazingly mediocre bass on you.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, when you're writing or you have written the song, and you know, to pick up another instrument, although it may not be your primary whatever, but you hear where you're trying to go. So it makes sense to be able to pick up the bass and go, okay, these are the parts, because it just feels right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, on this one, I actually played congas and percussion, and I really delved into, you know, I played mandolin on other albums, and, you know, and banjo and stuff like that, so that wasn't a big stretch for me. But like the congas and the bass and stuff like that was out of the side of my comfort zone, you know. But I had a great time doing it, and I actually, you know, it's something that I like doing. So you never know until you try, right? Mm-hmm. But I had, like I said, Jake Foreman on drums, Brian Wages on keyboards, and a woman by the name of Chevis Phillips. She's the female vocal in like It's My Story. She's got this like really like she was like, she did this like really kind of cool, like almost like Stonesy, like, you know, Give Me Shelter type of, you know, thing at the end of It's My Story. And she's phenomenal. She did some backgrounds on the album as well. So I had a plethora of amazing people on this album, and I can't be more stoked about like just everything that musically that has gone on. And you know, I think what's happened is that finding your center and finding happiness like in your family life and everything else like that, and I think everything spills over, you know, like all the people that I've met, all the great people, you know, that so far, even through, I did a couple songs out at Rancho Della Luna with with Dave Ketching. He's Queens of Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal. So and these two songs, hopefully, I'll be doing another album. Not under me though. It's not going to be Brian Grilli.
Right.
It's going to be a band name. And,
okay.
But I'm going to have like Joey Castillo, who played with Queens and Eagles of Death Metal, Zach Sabbath and Circle Jerks and stuff like that. So he's playing drums on it, and he's playing drums on these two songs that I'll release next year. But we're going to hopefully do an album, full album underneath a name out at Rancho de la Luna Studios in Joshua Tree. And, you know, meeting all these people through you know, not just music, but through the Valhalla company and everything, it's just been amazing. And, you know, and reconnecting with you, you know, I'm in the area, let's do this, you know, and it's like, it's just been a great experience, and it's been a great journey, and I'm excited to see what's the future holds, you know.
So you have a song out there called "Can You Feel It," and that thing has got just an undeniable groove to it. But you know, when I was checking it out, I was checking it out on Spotify, and I see this kind of trippy video kind of playing in the background. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, I'm terrible about putting individual videos and images to all the Spotify because it's just another thing. But oh, sorry, Bella. But that song, man, it slams, and I was wondering if that was just kind of a little piece that you did for Spotify. So then I go to YouTube, I check out the video, and I'm like, tell me about that video.
So
there's a lot of nice dancing.
Yeah,
there's fine dancing in there.
So I had this like thing. I wanted to do like this like 60s, 70s, like almost like, I don't know if you remember like the old Sid and Marty Krofft, like the banana splits and like like, or like this like the trippy old like Sabbath, like where they had like the, you know, whatever it was, like the colored like oil, you know, splotches that would like
that trippy
like
trippy 70s stuff. Yeah.
So I wanted that kind of vibe with like just the silhouettes, and you know, there's nothing AI in that video. Nothing. It's all green screen.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because it's me and my drummer. Like I'm playing the keyboards, I'm playing the bass, and
all right, yeah.
And he's playing the congas and he's playing the drum parts, even though he didn't play on the.
It's all backlit and shadowed and trippy, and you got to
like,
check it out.
Then we have the dancers, and then we have all the psychedelic, trippy like stuff going on. Yeah. And that was because the song kind of lends itself to like an old school 70s, you know, kind of groove. It's got like the Stevie Wonder Clavinova in it, and it, you know, it was just it's just a fun video, fun song.
Yeah. That's got to be happening live.
Oh, I love playing that thing live, especially when I have the keyboard player, because that Clavinova thing is so. You know, if I had my druthers, I would have a percussionist and, you know, another guitar player and everything. But it, you know, it was fun doing it because, you know, in the recording process, there's a lot of talk box in that, you know, and like a lot of people don't, you know, use a talk box anymore. But there's a talk box in that. In the whole song. Yeah.
That song just absolutely slams. Y'all have to check that out.
Yeah, because there's like a arpeggiated thing in the chorus where it's like, can you feel it? And then there's probably some Instagram footage out there, and I'm going wah 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 wah. It's just like it's all over the place, but you can't, you know, we kind of like, you know, buried it in here and there, but you can hear it. I'll tell you, I really wanted to do like an old school experience with the album. So a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of panning effects that you won't really be able to discern unless you listen to it on headphones.
Right.
And I really wanted to release it on analog, a lot of analog things.
Yeah.
So
speaking of analog things, right? I go to the website, and I had to shoot you a text because I look and you've got the album available on vinyl, on CD, on cassette, and on, get this, gangster 8-track. Right? So I'm like, I sent him a note. I'm like, is this for real? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, that's just gangster.
Yeah. So 8-track. It was either gonna be a spectacular win or an incredible strikeout, right? So I find this place called Kate's Track Shack. They make 8-tracks. I don't know what they do because I had to actually go out and buy an 8-track player from a vintage shop because I had to do the testing.
Yeah, gotta hear it.
So I don't know what they do, but it sounds better than any 8-track I've ever heard. Like I don't know if it's the new tape or the technology. It's crazy, but it sounds great.
Nice.
But it's actually old school 8-track. Like they had asked me, do you want us to replace the order of the songs to make it fit on each program, or do you want to do it like the old way where you would have the song and then it would go into the new program? Like it would kind of cut off a little bit and then you would continue on the next program because there's 4 tracks or whatever with 2 songs, 8-track, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's what, so that's how we did it. We did it the old school way where like it has, like you'll be listening to the song and then it'll cut off for a second, switch to the next program and continue. So it sounds great. We did a numbered they're hand numbered 1 through 25. I think we might even be sold out of them.
There's got to be somebody out there in the bitchin' Camaro or Monte Carlo that's still got the 8-track, and this is going to be perfect.
Oh, it's like I said, it sounds great. The cassette sounds great too, and again, I don't know if it's the technology today or the tape. Yeah. It sounds. Or maybe it's just I haven't really listened. I haven't listened to tapes in forever. Right. So, but yeah, just it's fun. Also, listen. When you see your own album on because I never had a tape before. I damn sure never had an 8-track. So, of my stuff. Yeah. And I never had a vinyl. This is the first vinyl release.
There's just something about the sound of music on vinyl.
It's the best. The CD sounds great, but the vinyl, I urge people to get a Crosley or whatever those, Victrola or whatever
You guys got to go check it out. So as we wrap, we got an acoustic performance coming up, but one of the things we like to do is a rapid fire. So I'm just going to throw some questions out to you. So the first one is, what's your dream stage?
Dream stage?
To play on. To play live on.
Ooh, there's actually 2.
Okay.
It's the Ryman and Red Rocks.
What's your worst gig?
You know what? The one I don't play.
What's your favorite MRE?
Spaghetti.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Spaghetti was probably. I would have to say the best one for me. It was the quickest and you didn't have to. You'd have to do much to it.
Yeah, hot or cold, whatever. Yeah, you just dump all the stuff in it, or just regular.
Or you put the hot sauce in it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
It's been an absolute honor.
I know I can talk forever. I'm a talker.
But I mean, that's the thing is this is not. It's not my story, it's your story. So what we do is we shine the spotlight on military and veteran artists and folks that are doing great things in the music industry. And you have covered a lot of ground in your in your musical journey. And again, kind of all while, there may have been times, after you went into the Navy where you kind of, got to set the music stuff aside. But again, that's what makes you, you. That's what makes all veteran artists them. There's a whole lot of bands and artists that are out there, but there's very few that actually, raised their right hand and took the oath. And those are the stories that we want to share with everybody. So thanks for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Where can people find you?
Well, hopefully not in a ditch anywhere. But no, so my website, everything's mainly under my name, briangrilli.com. My Instagram is Brian Grilli.
So Grilli, and I'll have some captions up. But
yeah, it's like barbecue grill with an I at the end of it. And it's the right way, spelling Brian with the I. Sorry, why guys. But yeah, and then Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, all that good stuff, and then, but the best way to support an artist, especially independent artists, is to actually buy something physical from us.
Absolutely.
Streaming and all that stuff is great. But a lot of people don't realize that that's not how we support ourselves. And,
right.
And, I'm really fortunate that, when it comes to, that aspect, I don't have to rely on streaming, and I don't think if you had to rely on streaming, you'd be...
It's a tough road.
Oh, it's horrible. But yeah, buying something physical, going to shows, and just, spreading the word.
Well, thanks again for being here. Thank you for serving our country.
Thank you.
Like we said before, VetTunes Podcast, we're here to shine the spotlight on military and veteran artists. It's great to understand their journey, both in life and in music and in service. So those are the stories that we want to put out there. If you have any questions or comments for us, let us know. Thanks for watching. Like, share, follow, do all that kind of cool stuff and all the things that the cool kids say. But, let's get the word out about our veteran community. We're small, but we got some killer stories.
Absolutely.
So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you're going way too fast along your life's path, you're gonna miss a lot of things along the way. Take it from me, my friends, it's not a means to an end. Just take each day by day. The trail's the thing that gets you there. Feel the breeze in your hair, just smell a magnolia or two. Find a woman, settle down, plant your roots in the ground. There's so much more living to do. Don't let the little things pass you by. The best camera that you have is your eyes. Take a breath and look at the great big sky. Don't let the little things pass you by. In the blink of an eye, you'll be pushing 45, wondering where the time has gone. Don't worry about all of that, just grab your keys and grab your hat. Drive till the sunrise at dawn. Look over at your woman there, realize she never cared what car you drove or money that you made. 'Cause you are rich in family, sit with her and just be with a little weed and wine and you're okay. Don't let the little things pass you by. The best camera that you have is your eyes. Take a breath and look at the great big sky. Don't let the little things pass you by. See your children all grown up, the little ones who run amok. It's time for a well-deserved rest. Love you gave, you have received. Sit back and lift your feet, knowing that you've done your best. Don't let the little things pass you by. The best camera that you have is your eyes. Take a breath and look at the great big sky. Don't let the little things pass you by. Don't let the little things pass you by. The best camera that you have is your eyes. Take a breath and look at the great big sky. Don't let the little things pass you by. Don't let the little things pass you by.
Thanks for listening to the VetTunes Podcast. If you enjoy this content, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. We have a lot of great stories, interviews, and live performances from veteran artists coming your way. So stay tuned. VetTunes out.